Hey everybody, in this video I'll show how to use quizzes to, of course, deliver quizzes or tests. So the purpose, if you want each question to be graded by the system or you want grade it yourself, then you use quizzes in Webcourses or Canvas. If you want to grade the tests as you do paper tests, then you will use assignments, and that's a different video. So I'll share the desktop and we can show you some examples here. One thing, when you go into your course, we're going to go to the setting feature first. Then we're going to go to navigation. So this top menu is where you put the links you want to use and the links you want the students to have access to. So if the link, for example, quizzes, it's a student link, which means the student can access it if it's in this top place. If you put quizzes at the bottom, it won't be accessed. There are some links that you put here, but they are faculty links, and those students will not have access to, even though they are here. For example, quiz extensions. One thing, for example, files to keep down here, because if you hide or you put your test there and you don't want your students to have access to it until you're ready to deliver it to whichever way you want to deliver. So you can drag and drop what you want. Once you finish, so I put on top here quizzes, quiz extensions, ProctorHub, and these three items I'm gonna cover in this video. And then we scroll down and save. So they are visible, like quizzes is visible to students. If it's not visible, you will see these icons, right? So we will click on a quiz. We will go ahead and add a quiz, which has two parts: the information part, details, and assessment part. So let's call this a test and a quiz, for example, because you can use it for either way, an exam or a quiz. And then you'll put your instructions. If you decide you want to use ProctorHub, then your ProctorHub instructions will show up below your instructions. This is a created quiz unless you want to use for a survey. Assignments is, you leave it that way, but maybe a different video. If you want to set up web courses to calculate and do your grades just like the syllabus, of course there are some limitations there, but if it can be done, then you can set it up. And in that case, you'll see the groups or the categories here. And I'll show that in a different course. You shuffle answers. If you have a time limit, allow attempts and multiple attempts, let students see or not see. So as you click on this, you'll see different options. So for this one, leave it unchecked until all your students take the test. Show one question at a time. When the student accesses the test, they'll see a question at a time. And checked, all the questions load in one page. But maybe in the instruction you put, if something is not showing, something that crashed, they need to reload the page or refresh it in order for it to show. Require a password. If you're giving a test early for somebody and you don't want other students to access, you use a password or some case. Filter IP address if it's taken in a lab and you know the IP for that lab. Let's say we do a due date 28 and available from the 27th, and let's say available until the 31st. So the difference is it will be available to be accessed on the 27th. It is due on the 28th. However, students have until the 31st to do. So just to show the difference between these options. And let's save. This quiz is not published, so you can play with it, try whatever you want to do with it. Students don't even see that it's there. If you go to settings at the left side, then you go to student view on the right side, then you can see what the student screen for your course. I click on quizzes. There is something I created before, quiz test, play with, but that's not the one we're showing now, right? So the one we're showing, test quiz, is not there. So just to show you that different thing. All right. So let's, I'll delete this one. And we continue working on the one we started. So let's go ahead to edit. We need to add questions. There are 3 options. Find questions, maybe that's a different, not a beginner level. You need to know a way to find the bank of questions somewhere and upload it here. That could be, again, another video. Add a group of questions, we'll talk about it. This is if you want for a question to have multiple instances, so when a student takes that question one student will get, it could be even the same problem, like different numbers, or one scenario deals with you know, some business idea, and one with the mechanic idea, whatever you want to do. But for the question, there is multiple instances, and you will select some options there. So we will see that in this video. New question is probably the first thing you're going to start with. Then you get multiple types of questions, and you know, I would recommend, of course, for your test to have different type of questions, so it's not all, let's say, multiple choice. To save some time for the video, I will show in a course where I have a test already made, and that will save the time for typing, and we'll show that. But for now, let's just take a true false. You have the tools here. If you want to use the icon and you insert with the math editor here, then the options for true false, you click on this, it changes colors. So we want this to be true. Anytime you modify a question, even if you save the quiz, it will not save the question, so you need to update. Now it's updated. The quiz is 1 point. If everything you do is out of 100, then you want the total to be out of 100, right? So we update again, and we save. So as I mentioned, it's not accessible. I can't take this now as a student, but if you want to, as soon as you make it to be available, then you will need to change a few things. So let's look at this group thing, and we're going to see it in a fully made test. This one, when you click on it, it gives you some options. Pick one question and award, let's say, how many points. Then if you create it, then you can create questions and drop them inside. So let's create another question. True or false. As you see, of course, when you click on this, there is also another view. You know, you just click on it and see how much this thing can do. If you want typing, we update, and we'll drag this, drop it in the box, and you'll see how this changed to 1 point, because now this is the question, And if you want this to be 100 point, then this gonna be 100 update. And these, in this case, I'll just, it doesn't matter, but we'll keep them 1 point each. And so it will pick one question from here, and if it's correct, it will award 100, right? And if I click on this, it will show me details. If you have more than 25 questions, this tool doesn't work. This option won't work. All right, so let's save again. I would recommend you work on it a little bit, you save, because if this thing breaks, it does not save your work. All right, so we go back to edit, and I'm gonna make it available so we can take it as a student now. We delete this, and I'll do save and publish. This is green, so it's it can be seen, available. There is no restrictions, so it can be accessed. There is no password. I'll go on the left setting and the right student view. Then you will see here that to do, it notifies me I need to do it, or you'll tell your students go to quizzes link on the left side menu and click on it, and you should see a test 3 or 4. Click on it, and you see it gives all the information. Time limit 60, take a quiz. As you see, we have 2 questions in the same box. So it picked one. It picked this 1 minus 1 equals 0 and submit. Then it's giving, it's 100 because the box had 100 points. If you have multiple, then you will award whatever is in the box. If you have multiple attempts, they will all show up here. But it also says quiz results are protected because in the setting, I didn't put to show results. So, and don't forget to leave student view anytime you want to change something. So as a summary, we clicked on quizzes, we worked on details, and we worked on creating a question, and we create a question group. We put that in the box. We showed how to check it from a student view. You can also preview it if you don't want to go to student view, but it's best at the end when you finish everything to go to student view and go to it as a student to make sure that what you used can be read, it's visible, all that stuff. Because if the student cannot read the question, then they cannot, or she cannot answer it. So we did the time limit 60. If you have a student, there are 2 types of extensions. One is the due date. If a student has you run your test, then now there is a student that needs to take it, and you don't want to open it to everybody else. If you want to open it to everyone who didn't take the test, you change the due date or the available date, and now it's available to everyone. But if you want just to make it available to that student who has documentation or something, then when you go to edit at the information and the details side, you click on add plus sign way to the bottom, and you will add another set for the due dates. So you will click assign to, you put the student name, it will come up, you click on it, and then you put whatever new due dates and stuff you want, and you add. So the setting for the whole class remains as it is. For the student changes, so you can do this individual setting or exceptions. If you have a second student, you will do it again, same thing. So 2 types, the due date The second one is the extension, which goes with the accommodation. So, for example, a student has a letter for double time, then ignore all this part here. We'll say we have everything done, and we go to these two quiz extensions. Remember, if it's hidden, you need to bring it up, like I showed at the beginning. You click on it. In here, I picked this one intentionally because there are no students in it. No student name is going to show up, but I'll talk about the process. If you have many students, you type in the name of the student to filter. The student name will show up on the left. You click on the student name on the left, now it will be on the right box, selected students. And you can do that until you put on the selected students box everyone that needs accommodation. Now you click on the top name, let's say Bob. You click on Bob, a box will show up and ask you what do you want to do, what type of extension you want to do. If it's double time, you do 200, right? Then you go next. Then for the second student, if it's 1.5, you do 150. Once you finish, you will hit submit. And what will that do is you will apply it to all existing quizzes or exams. Here they put exams, which is really quizzes. But for you, they could be exams and quizzes. It will apply it to everything that has a time limit. So to save time, this is something you want to do. Let's say if you have test 3 and 4. So what you want to do is create test 3 and 4, come back, go to quiz extensions, select the names, create the accommodation, submit, and this feature will apply it to all of them, which is good. So you don't have to do it for each quiz or test. So before we go to ProctorHub and close this, I will go into a course where I have a fully made test. Yeah, in this one we had everything here was delivered actually in Webcourses. So let's go to test 2. And so let's pretend we're going to create it. You click on quizzes, you will click on add a quiz, then you get this screen. You type in the details, you type in instructions. You see the one that wasn't in that course is this. Default is assignments, but in this course I created the groups and each one has its weight. And so this test belongs to this group, so I pick it. Shuffle answers, time limit, allow multiple attempts, and if you have all these features you check on or uncheck, you put all this stuff here, but for this part we're going to talk about questions. And you can see the details for each question. And I'll click on them in a second. So here I put some instructions or read, understand, just to make sure students can go through it. Over the domain, you can see this is numerical. So 5 pi over 6 is the correct answer for this one. You see the group. This question, the first one is not part of a group. This is everyone will get this question. Now for this second one, it's in a box or a group. Pick one. So the first student, for example, will get this question. Another student or second students will get this question. But it's still the same thing. Pick one and award 5.5 points if it is correct. And this is a numerical type question. I'll show how to embed images. This one is a matching question, which has two parts. So one question has two parts. It's also nice. You divide the points there. So these are distractors, and I'll show that. We also have a question where if you don't want type, of course, if you don't want to embed some other tools for graphing, and if you want them to graph, so for example, a trick here is we took this from the textbook and we're asking the students to put the type of equation or function that fits the graph. Here, different type of questions or graphs as a multiple choice. Here, I took these graphs and I put them in Paint and I gave them letters. So students will pick the letter that is matching the function. So, you know, this pushes us to be creative and create different things. So the test looks, doesn't look boring really because, or one style or multiple choice or something. But of course, it takes a lot of time. And once one learns how to use the data bank, especially from the textbook, it makes it easier by importing these. So for example, this is an important question, right? So I'll go through it, then we go to see a few things. So let's go to, yeah, like this one, it can be done as a text, or I did multiple choice, and I selected correct answer, I read and this and that, and I deleted the other options. But let's look at the multiple choice. So the choices here, multiple choice. I don't recommend that you copy, if you have them, let's say in Word document, and you copy and paste, something is not gonna work when that happens. So you want to type in, unless the whole question is important. So if you copy paste this stuff, most likely it's not gonna work. Something is not gonna show, or a different browser it won't work. So what we, you know, I showed that you can use these math equations to do. And if you hover here, you know, it's kind of hidden, but if you hover, you'll see the either to delete or edit. And it gives you still all the options for the answers, which is good. And you can add another choice. I really understand. Now let's just do none of the above. If I save, it won't keep this, so I need to update to keep it, right? Numerical. You pick numerical, it gives you a few options. You pick whichever you want. You put whether there is a margin of you accept, the unacceptable margin of error there. Like this one, we want some exact answer. All right, so let's look at image. So for this one, numerical answer, we typed in all this, looks nice. We give them even instructions, but for these gears, I deleted there. You can embed it here, but I usually don't do that. I can't save them. So if I want to use them again somewhere else, so I do that by clicking in the place where I want the image. I want it here, click there. I go up here, click on images on top right, and add a new image. You browse the image, you find it, you click on it, then it gives you the option to upload the image. If you get the option for a text to describe it, then probably best just go ahead, describe it. This way you don't have to do it again, because you may need it if you're going to use it again in the future. So describe it, for example, that question that I removed, I'll talk about it. Then you do upload. When you do upload, it's saved, and in the same time, it's dropped in its place, in where you want it. It's gonna be dropped right there. So description is 2 gears, smaller gear, 3.5 centimeter radius, bigger, larger gear, 7.2 centimeters. It can be as simple as that. And you can modify it later on if you have to. Here is the matching question. Say they got picked matching. Type the question, insert it the same way. You know, you can modify, rescale if it's too large. You can rescale it. You can add multiple parts to the question with this matching, which is nice. This is the correct answer. This is the correct answer. Below are distractors. You type as many. You can also type what type of message or comments you want. This is later on. If you want to, you can do that. A student will get a comment. Good job getting a correct answer. If they miss it, remember this is not. This problem is done this way using this other formula or something like that. So the comments can be applied to answers as well. All right, so let's look at it, preview it. We hit cancel here and we preview it. So when you edit a quiz, you also have preview, which is a quick check, but setting student view is always the best one to do before you run it and student take it. Once student take it, if you want change, there is some other issues to go through to make sure it is graded correctly. So these are the questions. And let's say I read this and I check it. Then for the students, it showed this. And don't worry about this part because students know this well because they take other courses. Most of them use Webcourses to deliver their quizzes or tests, and they know about this. So let's say I pick 5 pi over 6 here, you know, multiple choice, so it changes. But I'm not sure, so I'm not going to check this part. But this one, I don't know. I'll just say I found 288 and I check it. So for the students, they'll see question 2 I answered, but I'm going to go back to it because I didn't. So it can work this way or it can work the other way. If you flag it, it means you need to go back to it. Or if you don't flag it, you need to go back to it. You see the gear question. If I do 292 and I try to put degrees with O or something, then it will not work. It will give an error message. But we do add in the description that if you get that, just put the value of it, right? The matching one, pick, you see how now all distractors and the correct answers show up, and frequency, you know, so it's the same thing. You see the question, how it shows up multiple choice. This is something that came from the data bank, or the test bank. So how it looks, you see the A, B, C, D is pretty good because here it doesn't say question A, pick this, that'll be confusing. So, and as you see, it's shuffled. So if a student say, hey, cannot be graphed. So you can see in preview how everything looks, whether everything is clear, can the student read them, whether a T looks like a T or not, something like this, 9.7 T. A T may look as 1 or something, so that's where to follow it with where T is this, or there are certain things to watch for when this is done here, just to make sure that it can be read. Or there is a question for vertical asymptotes, and make sure there's a lot of typing math prints there, so to make sure they are clear. Once everything is clear, you save it, and we can go back to the next one, or the first one here. So we covered quizzes, creating a quiz, looking into different type of questions and all that, but mainly we covered you going in and creating your own questions based on what you taught of the textbook. Then we talked about quiz extensions being the accommodations, and we also talked about the due date extension from the plus sign in the edit feature. Now, the last thing we'll discuss here is a ProctorHub, which is, if you want to proctor this to your students, this is developed by CDL. And the way it works is it takes snapshots. Once it triggers to turn on the cam, the students will allow it. If the students, for example, doesn't allow it, the student will still have access to the quiz and test. So maybe you want to be clear in the instructions. If that happens, what do you want the student to do? To contact you, take the quiz, contact you after, or take the quiz, don't do anything, and you will check. But of course, if the student is going to be penalized because the cam is not on throughout the test or something, then maybe some communication should be there, whether hold on, contact me, or go ahead, take it, contact me, and I will get back with you. So that's the important part. It's positive and negative in the same time. It's positive because if you want it to happen, then it allows the student to happen. And if the student logs in at midnight to do it, and the students can just take their test, and you may not be able to reply at that time. So this is a feature, it's useful, but you want to make sure the student knows exactly how it's gonna be addressed if some irregularities happen with it. So what we will do is you can create a quiz, but I don't use this one because I want to decide later on to use ProctorHub or not. So if I go here and click on Add ProctorHub, you get the list of your quizzes, then I check and apply. That's it. So now this is a ProctorHub quiz. You see it triggers allow, and I allow it, but it's not going to show up here. It does show up in the page, but for me it's not going to show up because I have this here already. And you see your instructions are here, and the ProctorHub instructions are also here. So you can also take these instructions and email them to students so they know how they're going to use this, or like we did in the past, is to create a pre-test with ProctorHub, so students practice with it. They know they have to have ID, show it to the cam, they have to have their cam on and all this stuff, and if there is any issue, they let you know and you resolve it ahead of time. So that's a good practice to do with this. So if I do now preview, that's it. When the students click on it to take it, you will trigger to start the cam. You will put quiz instructions here on top, proctor the exam instructions. These you can also modify them. You see now it's picked up for us 1 + 1 = 2, and you and submit. So you see how the experience works out. So if you do that, final thing you're gonna ask, so how am I gonna check it? You go back to ProctorHub. Yeah, the faculty tools also have all these tools, which is nice. You go back to ProctorHub. This is the submission of this quiz test. You click on it. Of course, once your students take it, you'll have the list. You'll have the reports here for ProctorHub, not the report for the quiz. Just you click on the name of the student. You will give you all the snapshots. Every 3 seconds, there is a picture. There is on the right side a video. A video is not kind of a video, is all these pictures compiled in a video. So it will look just like the video. That's it. And you can go through them, see who showed ID, did you show ID, and whatever your policies are. If you want to, of course, the quiz stats or results, you will go back to quizzes and you will click on the quiz you want. And on this top right side, you have the quiz stats and the speed grader. Most of times you won't use speed grader here, but you can use it if, for example, some questions will be graded automatically by the system and some questions students will input and you're gonna grade them yourself. And in that case, you let know the students that the score is not final until you grade it. So you will get the list of students here on the right side. You will get the setting, how you want to see them, options. Let's say you want to see by the due date, submission, or by the names. And you can see the submission here, some options. This is 100 and 100, so and comments, if you're grading some question, you know, good job or whatever, or you missed this or something. And you can also do a video, or you can upload an attachment. This is a speed grader if you need to grade each question. But usually the speed grader is done when you create assignments, students upload a file, and in that case, you have to use speed grader to go through each submission and give a grade. I think we covered everything we need here. Thank you, and we'll get to another video and get this thing done.